we want to go over today is, Scott, really what we want to go over today. We want to have a beer, right? Just a couple old friends here, having a beer, talking about things. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts on what you've seen representing El Paso, right? Like, see what's going on, what you're trying to bring back, what you're trying to protect us with. And you're nearing the end of your term here. And I'd love to know what you've seen. And the coolest thing about this is that anybody watching here is going to be able to say, hey, basically, I know what Scott's going to talk about over a beer. So that's really what we want to talk about. What would you like to get out to everybody and be like, hey, this is what I saw, these are the experiences I have, and the most important things that you can bring to us and a happy byproduct to anyone in the Southwest region.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to be here. I think it's the second time I've been here.
Yes.
I think this went on a hiatus for a while, or else I wasn't invited. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe I just wasn't invited.
We'll go with hiatus.
Okay, very good. Probably the biggest thing about TREC is I got appointed in March of 19, and like 8 days later, they called and said, hey, by the way, you want to be chairman? And I was like, yeah, why not? Well, TREC went through what they call sunset, and I think most of you know that every state agency, every 12 years, you have to justify your existence. And TREC went through sunset in 18, and it did not go really well. They had a hold time 16, 18 minutes, drop call rate over 60%, had a lot of money in the bank, and so the governor and the sunset committee wanted some different things happen. So every 2 years, 3 new commissioners get appointed, and that happened in 19. I got appointed with Barbara Russell from Denton and Jason from Hargraves. He's a public member. He's actually in law enforcement. I think he's a jailer. And so we started trying to figure out, which direction TREC needed to go. Because TREC is what they call self-funded, SDSI. We don't depend on appropriations to give us our money. We get our money from our licensees. At that time, I think we were supervising 189,000 licensees. Today, we're probably 236,000 licensees that we supervise. And so, we got a new executive director, Chelsea Buckholtz, and she's been to El Paso. Just a dynamite executive director. Attorney, has a lot of experience on the state agency side, but yet young enough with enough energy, enough new ideas to really just bring some different chemistry into TREC. And so we have a new, I'll probably mess this up, a new executive director, a new general counsel, a new executive general counsel, assistant general counsel, Abby Lee from Texas Realtors. I think some of y'all might remember her. Vanessa Burgess, that actually, this is a funny story. We're interviewing her, and she had been previously with the Railroad Commission. And I was raised in the oil field, and there's one vehicle you dreaded to see, and that was that ugly green railroad commissioner pulling up on the lease because there was probably something wrong, So she went from one enforcement to the other. Well, fast forward 5.5 years, and almost 200, probably close to 38,000, 240,000 licensed supervising. Our hold time's a minute and a half. Drop call rate's 4%. And what's really cool about this is it's the same staff. It's the same person in charge of licensing, the same person in charge of education. I just think everybody kind of on the same page. We have 9 commissioners that are super engaged. If you watch our meetings, there's several votes, 5-4, 6-3. Very seldom is it 9-0. And I think when you have that much engagement, I think you make better decisions. We have a
and Scott, I'll kind of chime into the fact that I think that it also comes down to what you're discounting is the fact that you have been the chairman during probably the hardest time and the most advancing time in our industry in a long time. We've all been licensed. We've been licensed for about 20 years. You've been licensed for how long?
30.
So in that time, there's a gap, right? So 15, 20 years where there was some movement, and that you had Zillow come into the industry, but you went through COVID. You went through all these variables.
It was pretty stable until about, 4 years ago, and then it just got wild.
Yeah, it really did. And then, but not only the agency, but, Chelsea as the executive director. You're in Austin. That's probably the toughest job market in the world. You go through COVID, and you've got to hire good people. And I'm not going to say this for certain, but I'm sure a private industry might pay more than the state agency. I think that's pretty common. Mm-hmm. But she does, even through this, she hires the right people. And that, to me, has been the biggest advantage of being at TREC is there's the right person in the right seat on the bus. And that goes back to that Good and Great book about put the right people on the bus in the right seat. And, it's not over. We got some new contracts rolling out in August. As a matter of fact, next Monday they'll be proposed. And we're making some changes. Paragraph 12, putting so much money toward closing costs and so much toward buyer's broker compensation. Actually putting that paragraph 12, splitting it up. Because there's lenders now, I talked to one last week, that, oh no, none of that money can be used for broker compensation.
Is that on
And
the
then it's
FHA
an account against
or FHA?
non-allowables. No, so I sent a letter from Fannie Mae saying, no, it can be.
Yeah.
But it needs to be clear.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's important. I don't think anyone in El Paso can even pretend to say they have the resume you have.
Yeah.
And I think what makes you really interesting for this role is you've not only been the chairman of the Texas Realtors, but chairman of the Texas Real Estate Commission. And I don't think a lot of people understand the difference between the two. Everyone who's licensed has to go be a member is done through TREC.
Regulated by TREC.
But Texas Realtors are members of the Association of Realtors, and there's a big difference. What is for the state of Texas? What is the difference between licensees and members of the Association of Realtors?
Licensee is you have passed the test. You pass the test as a salesperson and or a broker, and then to be a member of the Texas Realtors, you join the local association. You join GEPAR, about 3,200 members locally. Texas Realtors about 150,000, 155,000, and then 1.3, 1.4 at the national level. The unique thing about Texas, though, is now of those 236,000 licensees that we supervise, that we watch run with scissors, not all of those are real people. Okay, there's about 20,000, 18,000 that are corporate licenses. Like I have Leading Edge Real Estate Inc. Y'all have a corporate license, and then some are inspectors, and some are right-of-way agents, and some are whatever. But what's unique about Texas, about 85% of all the licensees are members of the association, which is a huge number. Most states around 50, 55%.
Oh, wow.
And so, when we hear, well, the realtors should not be involved in committees and decision making and whatever, I think they should, because they represent 85% of all our members, and ultimately our job is to protect the consumer. And so every decision we make, we try to get all the shareholders in there to see not only how it will impact the licensees, but how it will impact the consumers.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a good point. I think a lot of people don't understand, agent-wise especially, TREC is not there for the licensees, it's there for the consumer.
You're exactly right. Yet at the same time, if you can reach out to the licensees and the other shareholders, TLTA, Builders Association, get everybody at the same table, you're going to make better decisions for the consumers. I mean, 4 years ago, we did this huge survey on wholesaling. And everybody knew wholesaling was just bad, predatory, boom, boom, boom. But nobody could really...
Nobody could speak it out loud to what the...
Right, exactly what it was. And so we did a survey, TLTA did a survey, Texas Realtors, and we all kind of came together. And now we got a disclosure to where the sellers always had to disclose that they're selling an equitable interest. Well, now the purchaser needs to the seller. Is it the perfect fix? Absolutely not. But I think we got a whole lot more information bringing all the shareholders in. But ultimately, it's got to be protected consumers.
So I kind of have a question that goes along with that. So you're talking about Texas Realtors, you're talking about Texas Real Estate Licensing Commission, but at the end of the day, they sometimes have different points of view in a lot of ways. Like right now, you have, as I understand it, Colorado's State Licensing Board for Real Estate Agents at odds with the Realtor settlement. And,
right.
And they're fighting back and forth, as I understand it. And that's not the only state that's actually having that issue at the moment. So that's the other issue, is that you come from both worlds. You've been involved in leadership in both worlds. So you do oftentimes have to be dealt with the fact of, how am I going to approach this? Am I approaching this? Like, you have to put on different hats, and you have to wear a bunch of hats at a different time. Because not only that, you also run a successful business with a lot of agents that, if you make a choice, it's not only affecting you literally, but it's affecting your business and your livelihood as well.
And there's times to where, and I'll get back to the Colorado thing in a minute, there's times where us and the shareholders, whether it be TLTA, Texas Department of Insurance, Texas Land Title Association, or Texas Department of Insurance, or Texas Realtors, where we don't agree. but yet there has to be professionalism to where you can agree without being disagreeable. To say that is not in the best interest of TREC. Now, my phone blew up Saturday and Sunday when all this Colorado hit about license and showing houses and everything going back to the settlement. Well, oh man, I wish I can look it up on my phone, but the administrative code for TREC says showing a house is a licensed activity.
Okay.
It is very specific. So when Colorado said, we don't have to abide by that because showing a house is not a licensed activity, in Texas it is.
Yeah.
And if the legislature changes, is that one thing. But it is, y'all remember that when that came out, because my story was, wow, I've got a big high rise and Mabel is the receptionist next door. I want her to open that office next door just so they can look at it, and that's showing a property.
Right.
And so the Rentley lock boxes were in question. A lot of things are in question. So that is the biggest difference between Texas and Colorado currently is showing is a licensed activity. And I had a bunch of emails, and I finally just copied the administrative code and just started sending it to everybody saying, this is the best I've got.
Well, and I think Texas realtors and Texas licensees tend to forget how good we've had it, right? Listen, we all have businesses that have functioned and we have worked with each other when it comes to New Mexico. And New Mexico has a lot more difficult process when it comes to forms. When it comes to the
Well, the New Mexico
process.
Commission does not do forms at all.
Exactly.
It's all done through the association.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, every state is so different, and right now everything's on a national scale. Everybody's looking at this stuff on social media, everything else, but we're all so different.
Well, and
but-
I mean, someone asked the other day, he said, do we need the Texas realtors? And I was like, well, look at the forms library. I mean, TREC does an awesome job with the 1 to 4 family, the disclosures and stuff like that. But we need the Texas realtor forms to finish it. Like if you have a contract, you've got to sell your house first. You're in backup position. You need a form to either move out of backup position or waive your contingency. TREC doesn't have that. Texas realtor does. But the thing, and I'm gonna get in trouble in New Mexico saying this, New Mexico will change a form
About every 5
on
minutes.
a dime.
yeah, well,
Broker lawyer, man, if you've ever sat and watched broker lawyer, those are probably
They like to
the
go
13 smartest people I have ever seen in
there's a
one room.
lot put into that.
There's
and
a lot
and,
put
and
in.
then it's like down. You get a forewarning and all. In New Mexico, it's kind of
Yeah.
like, by
the way, this
yesterday-
changed Tuesday.
Yeah, this is crazy.
I mean,
Completely
but
It
should read that.
contradicts the form I had a week ago.
Right.
Yeah, completely different.
And so the contract we're proposing, August 19th, we'll propose it. It'll go out there for 60 days of comment. We'll come back in November, hopefully adopt it, maybe some changes, can't be substantial changes. Then it won't be there till January. Well, they thought about doing something in May with the settlement, but the thing about TREC is if we change something and we have to go back and rechange it, you're talking 6 months. Because you have to propose it, it has to go to the register, has to be there for comment, has to come back, adopt it. I mean, it's not like
Well,
you
it's not
can
fast.
change it overnight.
But it
So you
shouldn't
gotta
be fast.
very
But it
careful.
shouldn't be fast. I mean, at the end of the day, the entire
should be
industry has to
cautious, yeah.
completely change.
Yeah.
Like Andrew loves contracts. I do not love contracts, right? But Andrew, like he gets so excited. He gets the new contracts. He comes in, he starts highlighting things, and he's like holding it up in his office by himself, checking out the new changes and stuff. It's like, man, look at this. He
Let
gets
me
so
make it look
excited.
like a centerfold.
Yeah, that's what I was
Well,
doing.
and one thing TREC does is they leave the red line up there now.
Right.
And I'm going to say
So
this
you can
very
see what
lovingly
changed.
for the people that don't. Years ago, we're going over contract change. Somebody raised their hand, well, that changed. I said, no, it actually changed 6 years ago.
Yeah.
That was 3 changes ago when it changed.
Well, and that's why I
So
think
the
it's so
red line
important to go
helps.
over that so much because people get into their spiel and they don't see what changes. And back for the last 20 years, that hasn't been a big deal, right? Like, I mean, it hasn't been as big of a deal.
But they moved option and, to paragraph 5, that was, you would have thought we were protesting at the
Well, in
courthouse
fairness,
when that
in
happened.
April Fool's 2021, it was an April Fool's Day. Like we've completely changed this contract.
Yeah.
But
I think it was all for the best. It certainly
and-
worked.
Absolutely. And I will say this: we did a contracts class on Tuesday night, and it was funny watching some people's like when we were going over the contract, and they're like, "Well, this isn't the new contract." I was like, "Yeah, this is the only contract." Like, no, they made all these changes. Like, guys, this is a promulgated form, and the only one who can make this change is TREC, and TREC hasn't done it yet.
And
So
that's
it
what
will be
we're all
coming.
about.
And as you said, one is coming. But I think there's so much of a blurry line for the average real estate agent out there that which forms are promulgated by TREC, which ones are Texas Realtor forms, which ones are in-house forms that they may have an attorney prepared for them, and just understanding Texas Realtors can make a change faster than
Instantly.
the Texas Real Estate Commission can,
You bet.
and it's good, and I like the slowness. I think 2 days from now, it's going to create a little bit of confusion where they're still talking about MLS in the 1 to 4 family, but it's an important thing to make sure people understand this is a promulgated form. Texas Realtors can't touch this form. The only person who can touch this form is the Texas Real Estate Commission.
And talking about, promulgated versus approved versus mandatory versus realtor forms. I mean, TREC does nothing with property management forms, leasing forms, listing forms, commercial forms. Do you follow me? It's
a small library.
Yeah, it is a small library. It really is.
Is the consumer.
Yes, exactly.
they're
Because the consumer, at the same time, can log on our website, TREC.gov, and they get their form and they can fill out themselves.
Correct. And we had this conversation when you put me on one of the conversations about showing and some of the showing companies. Well, guess what? That conversation came such to a head based on what's going on right now, because in our now short form, we have the showing capabilities, right? Well, and I'm
The
gonna,
touring agent.
the touring agent. I'm going to hit you up with a question, because this is a common thought process. And as a broker of a large amount of agents, if they're going to take that showing, right, that touring function, that monetary gain or that monetary take, where does that go?
It has to go through the broker.
Right? But now how do you accommodate that? Because last time I checked, I know you have a checkbook and I know you have a checkbook, but I think you're the only two people left in El Paso that probably do.
There are several ways to go about it. There's you're going to find this crazy. I don't even have a debit card. I don't
I don't
have a debit card.
I'm not surprised at all.
I'm not talking.
I'm not throwing back. I don't have a Venmo. I don't have a Cash App. Now, I'm not saying the office doesn't. So there's ways around it. And I've realized if you get $20, it's got to go through a broker. And that's got to be a broker policy. Are you gonna meet them there? They're gonna bring it.
Say that.
But it's got to be a broker policy. The broker has, because Bill Jones, y'all might remember Bill Jones. He was on the commission, was chairman of Texas Realtors, and actually did one of the funniest things in El Paso installation that's ever happened, which we won't talk about, but it's really great. He used to always tell me, Scott, you're only responsible for your authorized acts. If you tell them they can do that, then you're responsible. If you tell them they can't and they do it anyway, broker policy, y'all. All these lawsuits, all these settlements, it all goes back to broker policy. And if you don't have the policy, I guarantee you, Texas Realtors, they're frequently asked questions. So TREC frequently asks questions, and then get an attorney involved.
TREC also requires not only the policy, but the enforcement
Right.
of said policy.
Right.
There has to be a ramification for breaking policy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, is that you mentioned it and you hit it right on the head. It's the broker's responsibility to find this. Because I will tell you that we have a lot of people that are not having that conversation with their licensees.
Well,
and that's a question for you on the TREC side. Is that, that's got to be a concern.
It is, but the strange thing about it is the complaint process is now a little smoother than it was. Is it still the smoothest? No, because we will not take an anonymous complaint. And the very simple thing is, when you file a complaint on a license holder, you're actually filing a complaint for them not to be able to support their family. That is the way they make a living. And there should be due process. You should be able to face your accuser. Like, if you file a complaint on me, I want to know who it is and what transaction.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I need to know how to answer it. Okay? So the broker is responsible, but for a long, long time, brokers were not brought into the complaint. Now I think the complaint is, did the broker have the safeguards, the side rails to supervise? And if they did, and the agent just went rogue, then the broker's not going to be brought in.
Well,
But if the broker
shouldn't.
didn't, exactly.
As a
didn't.
broker, sometimes
I agree.
sometimes I get this place like this. You're the one who gave him a license. You're the one who did the background check. Something's got to be TREC's responsibility.
And that's the whole thing. The whole asleep at the wheel is kind of like
Right. And
broad stroke.
that's what TREC's looking at. Like, we had one, probably, I think it was May, maybe last year, where he was falsifying applications and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars. And the broker had very strict guidelines and had really no way of knowing. The broker was not brought in. Then we've had them where the broker
Was turning a blind eye.
right, so
Well,
their heads in the sand.
And that's what gets me. Like, you get a broker who's legit doing something wrong. Yeah, I'm all for it. Get after it. This is wrong. You should be held to a higher standard. But if you got one where it's clear, like the broker had no clue,
Yeah.
how would you possibly?
But we were all raised that if you messed up on a transaction, I'm calling Andrew saying, hey, didn't get earnest money deposited and get option money, whatever, and we're going to work it out.
Sure.
And that's the best way to work it out.
Absolutely. No.
If it can't get worked out, then that's why you have.
Well,
And
you
TREC.
said something
Yeah, there's
the last
levels.
time you were in this chair. You said that there's a fiduciary to the deal as well, and I've used that since
I quote that
all the time.
very often.
Yeah.
And that's the reality, is
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
forget that there is, and that's the thing, it's become a us versus them, a you versus me mentality, and we all do come from a time when we actually worked together to make sure that kind of everybody won in the transaction, because that's what is the purpose. To buy a home is a great thing for people. It's also a great thing for people trying to sell a home because they need that money for something else.
And it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah, and you have all these other variables coming into play, and here we are as agents trying to fight. Well, I won over you because I was a better negotiator. That's it's not always the case.
And just recapping that, I mean, you represent the seller, I represent the purchaser. But if we let our personalities get involved and my purchaser doesn't purchase and your seller doesn't sell, we violate the fiduciary to the transaction.
Absolutely. And
if you're
it's,
trying to win,
it
right?
should-
If that's my
It
biggest
should be a
problem.
win-win.
Yeah.
We sold a house on the corner of the east side, and I had the listing, and it was next door to our house, and it had been a rental for a long, long time. And I told her, I think you get, it's going to be something crazy, like 185, a 4-bedroom, triple her garage, swimming pool. I mean, now it's probably 400,000. And she goes, wow,
This was 6 months ago.
You really think I could? I said, yeah. And so we get like 182 or whatever. And so I'm out mowing the yard one day, and the new buyer comes and says, man, we really feel bad. We feel like maybe we kind of stole this house from her. That we just got such a good deal. And the seller's like, I can't believe I got that much money. I thought, that's the way it should be. There should be a win-win.
But this is exactly
Both parties felt like they
everybody
won.
should win. And,
Yes.
and I think that's where you get into this, right? And there's such a culture now that where people are like, no, we're going to screw you over for this. We're going to make the other party just feel like, oh, just so upset. Like, why not? Let's get some give and take. Let's see what we can do. Let's do the right thing here.
Get it to the table. But let me ask you this. How many of your agents have been licensed 12 years or less?
12 years?
12 years or less. Probably a large
Interesting
number.
year to pull out of the sky. but
Yeah. Just,
I would say 90%.
okay.
Haggerty Company.
They have-
Answer yours.
Same, right about
They have
Or
never
six
seen a
months.
down market.
Yeah.
Agreed.
They haven't.
They've never seen.
Maybe 10 years. I
They've
would
never
tell
seen
you
more than
12.
2% interest rate.
But how many people? How many realtors in El Paso have joined in the last 2 years? Because we're doing that broker's course right now. And
Nobody has it. That's the even worse part, is that it's not only that they've never seen a down market, they don't really even know how to become and stay an agent. We taught the broker course this week, and we had 5 people in the course. And that is because
That's the second month in a row.
a lot of people don't even know that they have to take that course, or what they did. And I've had an agent that, oh yeah, I took it. Wait a minute, you took? How'd you take it that fast? Well, I took it.
The
Which
6
one?
hour.
The broker responsibility.
Broker or broker responsibility.
Yeah.
And there's only 24 hours difference.
Yeah.
Well, and the scary thing is, like, we're sitting there, and one of the people in the class comes, she's like, well, how are we supposed to know to take this class? Well, I don't want to throw anyone on the bus, but your broker should be telling you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the broker's job. I mean,
And
brokers should be saying, hey, just so you know, to stay licensed, which we want to keep happening.
Which seems like a kind of a big deal. It's like, hey, by the way, if you don't take this, and especially in the first 2 years now, they don't give you any like, oh, hey, you just pay a little extra and we'll give you a month or two to kind of get it. No,
That went away.
now
And
inactive.
TREC took away the ability, that
Yeah.
extension time frame. That's gone.
We're not pointing fingers. We're just saying
No,
that it's gone.
yeah. Bullshit. Yeah. And also, I mean, February 14th of 2024, we had a TREC meeting, and they changed up some inactive license issues. You used to have to do a expired, or you had to do a 2-year look back. Now you don't have to. If you just If you expire, you go inactive. If you go back for the same broker, you turn around and re-sponsor them. And we'll talk about sponsor in a minute. Well, if your SAE is more than 2 years old, you've got to take it. Because there was a way, I did the math, where you could renew this year in August, take all your classes in September, go inactive until July of 26, use those 18 hours you took in September of 24 to renew in 26, and not do it until 28. And so almost go 4 years. And so now, if you leave one broker and go to the other one, and your SAE is more than 2 years old, you got to retake it, whatever it is. And I'll have to work on the math, but so we were telling everybody you might want to find the new boyfriend before you break up with your old one. Because if you go inactive, you might not be able to activate it back.
Well, and that's the hard question. You know, is the broker the bad guy for turning your license in, or is it like, hey, if I'm not in charge of you anymore, I'm not in charge of you anymore?
That's right, exactly.
Well, at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own business. That's the beauty of real estate. This is your personal business.
It is.
Right? And you do take, like we said, we're taking that, we're teaching the brokerage class. And everybody's mad. Well, my broker should have told me. 100%. Your broker should tell you. But at the end of the day, you got to take some responsibility.
But just totally from left field, would it be really cool, and I'm just as an informal poll, okay, if that brokerage class was part of the 180 prerequisites?
Oh, I agree. Well, no, actually,
And then
We talked,
maybe financing on the renewal side.
we talked about that, and I think we had a 50. I had a 50-50 split when we had
I can
that
tell you my
conversation.
view.
Okay.
Because there's two sides of it that comes into play. Number one is, do we need to be I think that class, personally, should strip the name of brokerage and should change it to business owner.
Okay?
Because we are business owners day one. And a lot of that class, at least the chapters I teach, are very applicable to business owners and not brokerage. Now, your chapters that you teach are pretty brokerage.
way more exciting when I teach it.
Yeah, pretty specific. Mine
Mine are
business
basically
owners.
marketing and employee, all stuff that agents can do as well if
It's
they
a-
have teams.
It's a cool course. I think it's really is important. At first, I was like, why would they have to take this in the first 2 years? But at the end of the day, it's like, it's kind of cool because what do you expect from your broker? It's kind of cool to be
Well,
like,
not only what do you expect from your broker, but you said it earlier. We're a business, they're a business.
Yeah.
but they don't
you
know
might
what
be-
goes into it.
Right,
a lot
but
of
I'm
times,
just
new
saying-
agents are like, hey, I expect. I'm like, hey, you want the good
They've got to
toilet
set
paper
their
or the rough
business up
stuff?
too. Now, if they take it and then they decide to be a broker, they're going to take it again. And I think taking it again, sitting from an agent standpoint, I'm picking this up. Sitting from I'm opening my brokerage, I'm going to take it from a totally different perspective. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'll say this. I'll say this about the class. I think it's the perfect class at the perfect time. They've got a little bit of time under their belt as an agent. It shows them why they need to do what they need to do. I think finance is a huge waste of time anyway.
Is it pre-license?
As a pre-license or as a class, I think I don't think it gives us the information we need. I think we throw so many letters at people; they're so confused and mind numb that they are. I teach that course, and you just see these kids just like, shoot me.
And let me add to this. We talked about advisory committees earlier. We talked about broker responsibility. We talked about broker lawyer.
Well,
This conversation right here, we've got an advisory committee, education standards advisory committee. This needs to go to them.
Yeah.
It really does, because we've got some really smart people on there that put this stuff together.
But real world
And-
changes the game.
Do what?
Real world changes
Yeah,
the game.
it does. It does.
And I'll say this. I
When
got
you
my
have to fill up your own car with gas, you should make decisions.
100%.
I got my brokers back in 2007. So I got it back in the long ago when you could get it in 2 years. And they made all these changes. And I think the changes are great because it's not my problem. I don't really care. I got mine back in the day.
right.
But, reality, am I a better or worse broker because I didn't have to jump through all those hoops? No. We talk about the classes. Do the classes help you? Do they hurt you? Are you better from it? I love to teach the class and talk about, military spouses coming to El Paso. Should they be allowed to do it? And it's amazing every time, no matter what, 100% of the time, I hear from every single person, this is horrible. It shouldn't be allowed to work. This is ridiculous. And then the guys, would you rather someone who's been in real estate for 8 years coming to El Paso and working, or someone who's never this is their first deal. Oh, it's been 8 years. So let's stop our crap. Let's stop pretending the world is so hard. The fact that I can move today from El Paso, Texas to Corpus Christi, and I'm licensed, and I've never even seen an ocean, but I can sell oceanfront property.
No idea.
But you
what
have seen a
deals with that.
beach.
I've seen a beach. We got the beach.
No water.
Yeah.
No
No
water.
water.
I don't know how that oceanfront property works. And that's what I say. It's like, guys, you can go to Amarillo, and you don't know anything about cattle farms, and you don't know anything about mineral rights, and you can go to Corpus Christi and deal with oceanfront
Wind.
property and wind law and all these things, and you're telling me,
Green stuff.
you know, my best friend is in the Marine Corps and his wife is a nurse. She can go from state to state and immediately start working as a nurse. You're telling me her job's easier than ours? And one person says, yeah, absolutely. Like, do you want to walk that back a little bit?
Stick something in a
It's like,
vein.
we did have to do 6 weeks of training compared to her 4 years, but it is it's funny when you can finally get people to be like, okay, yeah, I guess we're not that we can take that high horse off, but some of the classes that we teach are so.
Well, let's go back to that, because everybody here is a teacher. And I will tell you this. He gets on there every time, and he teaches the same course over and over.
And I think that's key to teaching.
But that's the thing. Every broker should have one responsibility, and that is actually learning what they're supposed to be teaching. Now, the worry is that what happens if they're really bad, and maybe that person gets a bad class, but that should be almost a requirement, that they have a apprenticeship to have to teach this course, because I'm going to go back to all of your concepts, right? Remember when you went through your realtor, orientation class? I want you to close your eyes, or hypothetically close your
I
eyes.
was 6'4",
yeah.
skinny with jet black hair.
The president of the board,
Amazing law.
the president of the board when I was there was such a piece of garbage. Oh, sorry, Scott.
No, go back and I seriously look around the room in your mind and tell me how many of those people are still in this business.
Oh no! I tell everybody when they're at the academy or whatever Greece calls it, like, make friends with them because they can be your referral agents in the future. Yeah, move that license to live for and sell
In
to their
my class,
family.
there's still 2 of us in the business.
I don't know of any in mine.
I couldn't even tell you who was in my class.
same.
I don't remember.
It's sad that our business loses so many people because people forget that it is a business.
Well, funny story about class. We're in class. This was 31 years ago, and everybody, why are you getting your license? Why are you getting your license? We got to this one little girl, and she said, I got my license so I could make enough money and leave my husband with my 3 kids. And I'm like, wow.
She's gonna make it.
You know what? First year, she sold a ton of houses, got her kids, and left. Fast forward 15 years later, my wife goes, I'm getting my license. Everything okay around here? Yeah.
Ready to take your trash out?
I remember her class.
I'll even replace the lamp.
Everything okay? Yeah, but
That's funny.
yeah.
I remember having her in class. She was very studious.
But you know, you were talking about complaints.
Hey,
Less
we had to
than
step up and
1%.
change whatever was going on.
Yes,
Good job,
yes.
Scott.
Less than 1% of our licensees have ever had a complaint.
Oh, okay, but yes. But I want to just highlight a few things on that because I think it also comes down to a lot of people don't even know what
File a
they
complaint.
complain on. I always we had this conversation in the brokerage class the other day. It's like, guys, how many of you have real estate signs? Okay. How many of them say the word for sale? Okay. How many of you have pending riders? Right? Because at the end of the day, it states that you need to put a pending rider if it says the word for sale.
Unless our MLS rules and regs used to have a caveat that cut that out.
Okay.
And I don't know if it still does since we have all the MLS, but you're exactly right. Statute, yes.
And
It's
that's
pending, yeah. But ours don't say for sale, do yours?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to put a vending sign.
Exactly,
And that's the
exactly.
thing, but that is
But how many people do?
that's
Yeah.
something that's not translated correctly.
Yeah.
And then we have this conversation about, where does the blurred line between ethics and law, and now we're dealing with settlement rules, right? There's so much of a blurred line between where, we had a lot of people, they started to say, well, it's the new law. It's like, not the new law
No.
at all. It is
We-
a rule.
Yeah, we ran these numbers the other day. There's 1.3, 1.4 million realtors nationwide. Let's say 10% of those aren't really agents or appraisers or whatever. Nationwide, there's 3 million licensed agents. that settlement impacts 50% of the industry. It doesn't impact TREC, but do you follow me? So you're right, it is a settlement.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the whole problem. Our contract should have protected us, but they didn't. But at the end of the day, we
It's
settled.
CYA.
I think Texas Realtors, speaking as a broker owner, not a TREC chairman, I think Texas Realtor forms were spot on.
100%.
Spot on. And yeah, just really do. But I mean, I think all of us have
You get the
settled stuff we
good, the
shouldn't have.
bad, and the ugly all in one shot.
Yep.
And I think we tend to forget that all too often.
And I think we're our own worst enemies. I mean, like people say all the time, well, I hired an agent today. You didn't. You sponsored an agent.
Well, and you have
You know,
Zillow coming out just
be
the other
very
day.
careful.
Zillow comes out and says, I want to have 6%. Now, I don't know if you guys are factoring in, but that's 6%. They want to have their hand in a piece of 6% of the transactions nationwide.
Yeah.
And this is a company that we were all saw him from formation, and now they will have, will
That's
they?
their goal.
Yeah, and will they have that piece? They want a piece of 6% of those transactions, and we just have to be conscious of the fact that the market is ever changing, ever changing. You have California doing their thing, you have Colorado doing their thing, you have Texas doing their thing, you have New Mexico. I mean, you have all these different mindsets, and I don't know where it ends up. I don't know. For the first time in a long time, I don't know where we are in 6 years.
When you get a lot of people that are going to try and be disruptors and get out in front of
Right.
everything.
Well,
It's going to be
my biggest concern, and this probably comes from the consumer protections, not only TREC, but a broker is, I mean, right now you buy a house FHA, 265, 3.5% down, you need $27,000 to close. And that's hard. And we're in El Paso. We love El Paso. But our wages are not where they probably should be. And we have young people that should be buying a house, building equity, building communities that are renting. And we have rentals. I mean, rentals are great. But we do not need a society of rentals. They said 28% of all the houses sold in Texas in 22 were sold to institutional purchasers. 28%, that's a third.
yeah.
And I mean, BlackRock, how many do they have? And in Georgia, our number 0 to 500,000, 60% of those were sold to institutional purchasers.
Well, let me ask you. We all started in the traditional brokerage style. We were all started as Century 21 agents. You've held on the longest than all of us.
I'm kind of like Bruce Willis, last man standing, maybe.
That's
Yeah.
exactly
Where do you
Great
see?
movie.
Where do you see? Do you see the traditional? With the conversation of disruptors and things, we all experienced, in 2000, in the early 2000s, different companies coming in and being the disruptors, come and go. COVID changed a ton of the way real estate offices function and
A ton.
format. Where do you see as a real estate broker of a traditional style office? Do you see that coming back? Do you see it changing more? What are your thoughts moving forward?
I don't think you will ever get any industry back in the office. Whether it's real estate, whether it's insurance, whatever it is.
Like 100%.
Yeah, I don't. I see you see a lot of virtual. I see a lot of hybrid. But I think there's got to be a combination because ultimately, whether your agents come in or not, you ultimately have that responsibility of supervision.
Well, and
And-
everybody works in a different environment.
Right, they do.
If I work at home, mysteriously I open the fridge and I start getting on a honeydew project. It just happens, right? And I'm
Netflix gets you.
Netflix gets you.
I cannot work it out. Cannot.
I couldn't do it.
Not even.
I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Could not.
Couldn't even try.
Yeah. Would not even. Yeah.
Not even gonna shower today. I'm just gonna say
But
no.
then-
Hair doesn't
then-
grow out.
Then there's the opposite
hair
version
grows?
of that can work better at home because they can focus more at home.
My daughter, I mean, she works virtually from home, and she dominates. She is absolutely incredible, and because she can do it. I can't.
My wife, during the pandemic, she got so much more accomplished at home because nobody was bothering her, except for me. But the problem is it sounds good for everybody, but there's only a fraction of people who can actually pull it off.
But I
Yeah.
also think it's like kind of cyclic, right? Like a lot of things, everything went virtual for the longest time, right? And everybody's like, "Hey, we're just sending you texts. You're buying things sight unseen, all this kind of stuff." And now I think everything kind of comes back around where people are like, I'd like somebody to see them face to face. I think those are the disruptors now, right? Like people showing up and like, "Hey, I will walk with you and show you a home instead of just send you to open a box or whatever the case is."
Yeah.
Crazy.
Remember
Sounds
that
crazy.
commercial years and years ago? That insurance companies really kind of struggling, and he calls everybody together and gives them all a bus ticket. He says, "You're gonna go see your clients. You're not gonna call them on the
You're
phone."
older than all of us.
Anyway, and he just talked
That's
about
a bus ticket. Quiet down, young guy.
getting back in front of people, change the environment. But even if you work virtually, hybrid, whatever, remember, TREC's rules, one size fits all. Doesn't matter how.
There's no different.
There's no different. Well, I'm a virtual. No. All the rules and regulations, not only from TREC, but from NAR, whatever, they're all the same. Doesn't matter.
I just want to say something that from when you first started. What I really like is you said the staff is the same, and just the culture is what I'm picking up. The culture just kind of changed everything. Where hey, everything just changed so much.
And the efficiency.
But nobody changed. Yeah, but the thing is it's not like we had to bring in people, better people. It's
Right.
just we started talking to each other, things like that. And I think that's one of those things.
And there's
too.
probably some other staff changes, but the core staff.
The people actually
No.
getting crap done
No.
are the same people, right?
And I think next year you're going to see a huge change in TREC because we're launching a new database, ramp, whatever for online stuff. You're going to be able to do a lot of stuff online, and it's going to be almost probably $7.5–8 million. It's going to be huge, and it should launch hopefully first quarter of 25. So that'll be good. There'll be a lot of stuff you can do online now.
I will say, I remember when I first got into this industry back in 2005, 6, 7. You called TREC, you put them on hold, and you just whatever work
That
you
was
had to
your morning.
do. You'd sit in there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and just prepare. And just someday someone's gonna be like, hello, oh, hey, I forgot I called you. And it is. You call there now, and it's like, can I help you? I wasn't ready. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to call you back.
Well, remember, they open at 7, which is 6 El Paso.
yeah, there's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
Makes some difference.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Scott, we appreciate you coming in. We probably talked for hours and hours. So I want to kind of just give you the last 2 or 3 minutes to say one, did you absolutely enjoy being that chairman of the biggest organization of real estate in the state of Texas? And then 2, what did you, what are the things that you would like to see happen in the game of real estate? And then, what else you want to just share with the people of the real estate community that we are all part of?
Yeah. Probably the biggest thing was just the fact to be at TREC when I was there. Went in there with some really good commissioners and got the commissioners engaged and staff got engaged. And I just, they always say your number one thing as a leader is find your replacement. And in this, you don't find your replacement. The governor's appointments office does. But you try to leave it in a better position. And a lot like anything in real estate, it's all about the relationship. The relationships I've developed over there, I think 10 years from now, when I have a question, an issue, or whatever, there's people I can reach out to. Of everything I've done, Texas Realtor Chairman, our NAR RVP, this is the one thing Paula would probably let me do again. She probably would. The others probably not, just because of the time commitment. But, I think 6 years is enough. I think after you've been chairman or on the commission 6 years, it's time to move on. And so I'm really looking forward to it. We've got some ideas on what we want to do. I will continue to be involved locally.
Well, and just to kind of focus on that, we have 2 serial volunteers here, and I'm pointing at these 2. And there are people that really find passion, and I think you both do. So if there's that person online.
Also, the only 2 people who've 2-time Realtor of the Year for El Paso.
Hey, and those of us who are not serial volunteers, thanks, guys. We're gonna get beer.
Well, and that's the category, right? So there are people out there that do truly enjoy what you guys have accomplished in that. So how would you tell a person today that's newly licensed or newer licensed how to get that, how to be Scott Kesner in 30 years?
Well, don't be Scott Kesner, but I promise you, this is a great business. And this is the only business where you control how much money you make, you control your hours, you have a lot of control. Yet at the same time, as rewarding as that is, if you will get engaged and get involved in the industry and help move the industry forward, whether it's at, in the local level, state level, whatever, get involved. Get involved, if not the association, your community. And I know all of us do. And that's a real rewards of being licensed for 30 years and doing all this is being engaged and seeing the people you've brought on. I've got 2 agents graduating from TRLP this year. I think TRLP is one of the best programs in the world because it's a Texas Realtor Leadership Program. It's not developed to develop leaders for the association. It's developing leaders for the community. You might go to the Boys Club, the YMCA, whatever you do, it helps you develop leaders. And so give back to the industry. We've seen people come in, they take, they're gone. You give back to the industry's going to give back to you time and time again. I promise you that.
I would say that your brokerage is probably the pinnacle for that. I mean, you have so many people with you guys that have given so much to the past.
And we do, and we're very fortunate. Our agents are certainly engaged, and
But that's
and they like each other.
That's
Yeah.
a result of you.
Yeah.
That's a result
Culture.
of your
Yeah.
culture that you've created.
But I want to end with, we talked about TV series earlier, where I don't think we're online. We talked about, what are you watching?
Many things. The latest one I'm watching right now is Orville, and I think it's just
Orville.
hilarious.
Okay, and we talked about watching Last Kingdom.
Last Kingdom.
And me and you have watched Downton Abbey,
both have
and
wives that
we have
take you-
survived. If you're in real estate, you need to watch the show Masters of the Air.
Great show, actually.
A
What's it
great
on?
show.
I think we talked about the
If-
universe, and I was going
if
to say
you-
I watched it as
if
a child.
you-
That's
if
the
you
man I am.
Power of Grayskull.
If you have not watched it, I tell our agents all the time, a closing is like landing a plane. If you walk away, it's a good one. And some of those
Yeah, they come back.
they
beat
come
up,
back
battered.
shot up, one wing off, on fire, and they land. And they walk away.
What is this? What
It's
is
World War II.
World War II.
like
it's the
Memphis
bloody-
Belle style
Kind
thing?
of. It's
Yeah.
it's similar. It's the bloody something. Bloody hundredth or something.
Yeah, but it's all a true story. All the soldiers are true. It talks about, we lost, I think it was 55,000 crew members on those bombers in World War II.
And this is the one
Just-
that lost the most.
And it's just incredible. Those planes come in and land. I'm thinking, that's real estate, baby. We just landed that, and we're walking away.
And
Yeah.
we're about to get back in the plane tomorrow and do the same
and do the same
all
thing
over
again. Yeah,
And
But
hoping,
a new plane.
Yeah, hoping,
Yeah.
or at least a patched up plane.
a patched up
Yeah.
plane.
And so that's really the key. And Scott, we truly appreciate it. And like I said, we could go on for hours, but it comes down to you are right. Selfless always leads the pack.
Agreed.
Because if you are going to fall those points. You're gonna do sometimes that volunteer job that you don't necessarily love, but you know what? You do a good job. You walk away from it, and you leave it better than you did the day before. So, with that, kind of give us some closing basis. It's all on you.
Well, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Andrew. I hope you enjoyed this stuff.
I did.
Yeah, thank you. The only one that didn't complain about the beer selection today was Scott. So thank you.
Everything else thing had fruit in it.
He had tea, everybody.
Sweet tea.
At the end of the day, we went to Tin Man. We're getting our growlers. We're coming in here. We're having a great time. I hope you guys really enjoyed this today. This is pretty much every conversation we have where we show up. We will sit down, have a beer with Scott, and talk about this kind of stuff. I hope you guys got something out of this. See what we really believe, and watch Last Kingdom, right? At least until the end. But don't watch the movie. Go on.
I agree.
Thank you.
Andrew.
Go. Done.
And-
It stops.
Yeah, and I'll wear long pants next time. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. And remember, we always want to just bring more content to you. We want to open your eyes to a lot of the things that we tend to have these conversations all the time, but not everybody is afforded that based on where they're at, what they're doing, or maybe that they're super busy and they just don't have the time. So hopefully they can kind of take a piece out of what we talk about. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.